Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to talk to you guys here. Got a bunch of things to talk about today. The theory going around that the undusting of the MCU will actually happen in the Captain Marvel movie. Why there's actually some merit to that. Jon Hamm and Ed Harris join up with Top Gun 2. Is it time to give up on Star Trek with all the recent drama going on? That and a whole bunch more, and your live questions and all that kinds of good stuff. But before we get to any of that, let's lead off today, as we have been lately with every show, which is revisiting the answers and the results of the question of the day. Now, you guys might remember that on yesterday's question of the day, we asked you guys, are you okay with the fact that this year's Arrowverse crossover of Flash, Arrow, Supergirl will not include the CW hero show Legends of Tomorrow? Remember, the Legends of Tomorrow have been included in previous crossovers. Are you okay with the fact that they're not going to be included in this year's crossovers? And the results are in, and you guys overwhelmingly have said, yeah, you're totally fine with the fact that they're not going to have Legends of Tomorrow in there. 76.04% of you guys said, yes, it's totally fine that they're not going to have the Legends of Tomorrow. 23.96% of you said, no, they should be in there. They're part of the CW universe. So there you have it, guys. The vast majority of you on yesterday's question of the day is, yes, you're totally fine with the Legends of Tomorrow not being on the show. We, of course, have a brand new question of the day today that we're going to be getting to in just a little bit. But before we get to any of that, let's jump right off the top. This morning, it was announced that a couple of new cast members have joined the upcoming Top Gun 2. Now, many of you guys know, Top Gun 2 has been announced. It's coming. It's already shooting, as a matter of fact. Tom Cruise is in there. Miles Teller is also starring in it as Goose's son. You remember Goose, his wingman, or his co-pilot from the first film. He's in there as well. Well, they just announced a couple more major additions to the cast. And those cast members come in the form of none other than Jon Hamm and Ed Harris are joining the Top Gun 2, or as they're calling it, Top Gun Maverick sequel. I gotta tell you what, guys, I think this is great. Number one, Ed Harris. I mean, come on, Ed Harris is absolute money. He's gold. He brings it every single time. Even when he appears in some questionable movies, Ed Harris brings it every single time. He's one of the only things that I actually liked about Westworld consistently. Like, I'm not a huge Westworld fan. I'll be honest with you. I thought Westworld Season 2 started strong, got kind of iffy. But whenever Ed Harris is on the screen in that, he's great. Now let's talk about Jon Hamm. Jon Hamm is on a surge right now. He's got a bunch of pretty decent profiled movies coming out. He was, of course, great in Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. He's awesome. He's awesome in everything he's in. A lot of people still think he should be like a Superman or a Batman or whatever, all that kind of stuff. He could pull it off, no doubt. But his addition to this as well, I think, is spectacular. So now you're talking about your lead cast dudes with Tom Cruise, Ed Harris, Jon Hamm, Miles Teller. This is shaping up really well. Now, I'm still a little iffy on the movie. There's a part of me that feels like Top Gun 2 at this point might be a little too late sort of situation. You know what I'm talking about? There's also a part of it that I think it was Joe Krasinski. Is that who's directing it? Anyway, the guy who directed Oblivion with Tom Cruise, I was not really a fan of that film nor of its direction. But Tom Cruise is comfortable with them, so who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So I still have some question marks regarding Top Gun, to be honest with you. The whole too little too late thing, is it just a gimmick at this point? I'm a little bit iffy on the director. Not totally against it, just a little iffy, that's all. But you compare that with the cast they're lining up, the fact that there is a huge nostalgia factor connected to Top Gun. I'm really curious to see how audiences are going to respond. But as of right now, as far as this news goes, with the addition of Ed Harris and Jon Hamm, I think it's nothing but good news. So I'm excited about that. Let's see if the movie actually turns out to be any good. All right, let's talk about this as well off the top. Tonight, in most theaters across the country, the brand new comedy Happytime Murders will open up. Now, the last time I checked, the Rotten Tomatoes meter on Happytime Murders was hovering around 25%. So only like 1 out of every 4 critics actually like this movie. And I got to tell you, for myself personally, I don't know what they're talking about. I seriously, I don't, because 3 out of 4 critics, roughly, do not like this film, and I gotta tell you, I'm surprised. Now, I knew Happytime Murders would be a divisive movie, because the trailers were completely divisive, right? There's no middle ground on it. And I think the movie is the same way. There's not a lot of middle ground. I think you're either gonna really like it, or you're gonna really hate it. And the trailers did that, right? Half the people thought it was freaking hilarious. A whole bunch of people thought it was just crude and stupid looking. I get it. So I knew this movie wasn't going to be for everybody. And I'll be honest with you. The fact that the studio held off the review embargo until the day before the movie opened, that's a big red flag. It is. So I went in to the movie to watch it the other night with a little bit, number one, I was super excited because of the trailers, but I was a little, cautious and a little apprehensive because of the fact that the studios pulled this incredibly questionable move of holding off the reviews until the day before the movie came out, which is never a good sign. So I didn't know what to think. Now, I had briefly for a moment met the writers of the film, Todd and Dee. I met the writers of the film briefly just before the screening because I know their publicist. And we met, and that's great, and whatever. So I went in to watch the movie. I really enjoyed Happytime Murders on a couple of different levels. Level number one, it's a comedy. The main thing I'm looking for is laughs. Made me laugh. You know what? The audience I saw it with laughed a lot too, which is part of the reason why I was so surprised to see so many negative reviews, because I saw a press screening of this thing, and lots of these press were laughing. Lots of these press were laughing. That audience I saw this movie with was laughing a lot, and yet a bunch of them still walked out and wrote negative reviews. Whatever, just because they laughed, that doesn't necessarily mean they like the movie. Fair enough. But to me, for a comedy, the number one thing I'm looking for in a comedy is, do you make me laugh? That's the most important thing. And it made me laugh. So on that level as a comedy, it completely made me laugh. And the thing is, the funniest parts of the movie to me weren't even in the trailers. And that's rare. So I enjoyed that. Another aspect of Happytime Murders that really clicked for me and worked well for me was that even if you take the puppets out and forget the shtick of the puppets and that whole sort of thing, Happytime Murders to me works as a 1980s style buddy cop movie. And it completely, the whole movie is this love letter to 1980s style buddy cop movies. And I was eating it up on that level as well. Look, are there a number of jokes in this film that didn't work and fell flat? Absolutely there are. Absolutely. Can't deny that. Is there like some questionable narrative paths that they take to get to some weird conclusion? Absolutely there is. Yes. So that's fine. I get that. This is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. So the basic premise of the film, which you probably picked up from the trailers, is this. Back in the 80s or early 90s, there was a very popular, in this world where puppets and humans exist together, there was this very popular puppet show called the Happytime Gang. And now we fast forward to today, and somebody is going around murdering the old cast members of the Happytime Gang. Hence the name of the movie, The Happytime Murders, right? And so this former cop, who's now a PI, is hot on the investigative trail trying to find out who's committing these murders because his brother was one of the cast members of the Happytime Gang. So he's got some skin in the game, right? He wants to find out who's doing these murders. So that's the basic premise of it. Then eventually comes his old cop partner, played by Melissa McCarthy. I liked the dynamic a lot. I'll be straight up with you. Melissa McCarthy's becoming a little bit hit and miss, no doubt. But I liked the dynamic between the puppet, the lead puppet named Phil, and the Melissa McCarthy character. I thought their dynamic worked on the kind of level you would expect a 1980s buddy cop movie to work. And that worked for me. And again, the humor throughout it worked as well. And on top of that, the mystery part of it, because, there's a murderer on the loose, you're trying to solve who it is. I thought the mystery part of it was kind of good too. Not the most dynamic thing I've ever seen, but I thought it kind of worked. Look, bottom line is, I walked out of this movie having enjoyed myself. Is it one of the top 5 best movies of the year? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Not at all. Is this movie for everybody? Obviously not, especially with the R-rated material and the very fact that 3 out of every 4 film critics don't seem to like this movie. Fair enough. It's not for everybody. All I can do is tell you my personal experience with it. And my personal experience with Happytime Murders was I walked in, I sat down, I grinned, giggled, laughed a lot, and had a good time. Despite some of the obvious shortcomings of the films as well, by the time I walked out, I was entertained and smiling. So, I recommend you guys check out Happytime Murders. I cannot guarantee you're going to like it because there's a lot of other people who don't, and it's clearly not for everyone, but I would recommend checking it out because I had a good time with it. I really did. And it's kind of original. You don't see a lot of films like this these days. The fact that it harkens back to the 80s style buddy cop, I mean, a lot of things in there just made it a worthwhile experience for me watching it. Whether it will be for you, only you can decide that, but I had a good time. So that's my review for Happytime Murders. All right, moving on to the next little thing here. Also pertains to Happytime Murders. Okay, as I mentioned, before going in to watch the movie, I briefly met Todd and Dee, the two dudes who wrote this movie and actually kind of came up with the concept of this movie years ago, back when they were in college. But they wrote this film, and it's like, okay, nice to meet you guys, whatever. I went and watched it. I had such a good time, and I never do this, but I had such a good time. I ran out of the theater when the movie was done to make sure I could catch up with these two guys. And I said, listen, I really enjoyed that. Can I please get you to come down and meet with me and sit down and talk a little bit about Happytime Murders? Because I would love to pick your brains on it and get some background stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I never do that after a movie's done. But I ran out and grabbed these guys because I just loved how fresh it was to me. So I grabbed them. They said, yeah, when you want to get together? I said, how about tomorrow? So they actually came down and met me in Hollywood. Remember my friends at the Stream where we used to shoot AMC Movie Talk all those years ago? So I arranged with the Stream, say, hey, can I come and interview these guys at the Stream? They said, sure, come on down. So I'm going to put up the full interview with these guys a little bit later today on my YouTube channel because the full interview is about 17 minutes or so. But I wanted to give you guys just a few minutes of this, just 2 or 3 minutes. Here's a little segment of my discussion with Todd and Dee, the writers of Happytime Murders. Check it out. All right, so the first thing I've got to ask about the movie, and I loved it. I absolutely love this movie. It's funny, but I remember I ran out of the theater after we were done. I grabbed your publicist and I said, the first thing I said to her is, the thing I loved most about the movie was take the puppets out of it. This is a great 80s style buddy cop movie. And like her face lit up. She goes, that's what they were going for. How did this whole thing start? And we're going to go out of chronological order here, but did this thing start as a buddy cop movie idea? Was it the story already there? Was it always envisioned as a puppet thing? What was the genesis of this?
We knew we wanted to do something with puppets. Dee and I had known each other since college, and we'd made a puppet short film in college, and we knew we wanted to do a feature. We both loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit, of course.
Right,
and
yeah.
We both recently moved to Los Angeles. This was in the early aughts. And so we both loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We loved Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles, which is like an R-rated crazy puppet movie. And we loved, I loved, I can't speak for you, but Training Day was just in theaters when we came up with it.
That's not a movie you expect to hear with the other ones.
No, yeah. But so I just moved to LA, and for me, Training Day was actually one of the only DVDs I owned at the time. It was like Training Day and Best in Show. And I would watch Training Day over and over to prepare myself to move to LA. Like, because I thought that's what it's going to be like.
Now you sound Canadian.
That's how you buy weed, right? But then they might put angel dust in it, so you have to be careful. So Dee and I said, oh, well, we want to do something with puppets in a world where puppets and humans coexist. And then it hit us to do kind of like a buddy cop movie, like throwback to Lethal Weapon. Because all of those buddy cop movies were always taking two cops from two different walks of life,
right? Yeah,
and pairing them up together. And Lethal Weapon is literally like it's a black cop and a white cop, or 48 Hours, like
Tango and Cash.
Can you believe? Tango and Cash. There's like this, the fact that Sylvester Stallone was like the suit wearing straight laced one, and then Kurt Russell's like the crazy one who plays by his own rules. So we thought, oh, what a perfect opportunity! It's two cops from two different walks of life. But one of their walks of life is that he's a puppet, and he knows the puppet community, and he's the first puppet cop. And she hates puppets, you know? And putting those two forces together is like a perfect way to send up the tropes of buddy cop movies, like the classic Shane Black buddy cop, genre of the 80s that we loved so much.
Yeah, then there was also like the film noir aspects.
Yeah.
The sort of complex storytelling in terms of like the plot and the characters and even the overall feel of Los Angeles. And you'll know like it is a direct representation of LA, but it's also like a little more heightened in terms of the world because, you have puppets coexisting with humans. It's a little bit more seedy, but I think that ultimately it's like a genre, a blend of different genres. World because, you have puppets coexisting with humans.
And there you go, guys. We again, I'm going to put up the full interview that I did with these guys on my YouTube channel a little bit later. I had a really good time talking with them. He actually pulls out, a little bit later in the interview, he pulls out one of the original puppets that they got and put together for a short film version of it before. It's actually pretty funny. But again, that's it. That interview with Todd and Dee, the writers of Happytime Murders, will be up on my YouTube channel a little bit later today. Okay. With all that out of the way, let's go on to our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics? It's actually kind of simple. You guys select our main topics by emailing me your questions and topics to john@thejohncampeashow.com. Just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, or else I can't even fit them on the screen even if I wanted to use them. And then maybe you'll see your topic or question pop up here on the John Campea Show. All right, let's dive into it with topic number one. And topic number one comes to us from Dean Riding, who writes, "Hey, John, what do you think the chances are of a Step Brothers sequel happening?" Where do we go? John C. Reilly said it wouldn't happen because sequels aren't the most attractive things. However, this contradicts what Will Ferrell said about there already being a story about the brothers following their parents to a retirement home. What do you say? Over or under 50%? All right, thanks a lot for that, man. And yes, one of my all-time favorite comedies. All-time favorite comedies. If it's not in my top 5, it's easily in my top 10, is Step Brothers. And probably my favorite Will Ferrell movie. I love this movie. Ann and I can watch this movie every 3 months. Like, Ann and I love this film. It looked dumb. I love it. I still laugh myself sick whenever I see it. And I would love for them to go back and visit with these characters again. I like to see a little bit of development with the characters and all that kind of stuff, but I'd love to go back and see these characters again. So anyway, why haven't they made another one? Where is another one? Well, anyway, recently John C. Reilly was interviewed, and he actually talked a little bit about the fact that we don't have another Step Brothers. What's the current situation with another Step Brothers movie? And this is what John C. Reilly had to say. He said the following: "We've been talking about it pretty much since the first one came out. For most artists, sequels aren't the most attractive thing. Fans, of course, are different. If you like pizza, you want more pizza. I understand people really getting into the idea, but in terms of having something on the table, no, there isn't." So just once again, we've been talking about it pretty much since the first one came out. For most artists, sequels aren't the most attractive things. Fans, of course, are different. If you like pizza, you want more pizza. I understand people really getting into the idea, but in terms of having something on the table, no, there isn't. So look, there have been some comments before that there was an idea for a story, and yeah, that might be true. But as of right now, what John C. Reilly is saying is that there is no actual plan right now. There's no actual proposal. There's no actual development. Somebody may have some ideas and maybe talking with somebody else with some ideas, but as far as something officially being on the table and some proposals and some kind of development, as of right now, John C. Reilly says there's nothing. And the other thing he said in there I thought was interesting. He didn't come right out and say, I don't like the idea of doing a sequel. But when you say in your answer, artists don't find sequels attractive, it sounds like he's talking about himself. Now, of course, he's just gone back to do Wreck-It Ralph 2, but that is only a couple of days of him being in a sound booth, so it's a little bit of a different situation, so I'll give him that. So it sounds like maybe John C. Reilly himself may not be all that keen on doing another Step Brothers, which I would be disappointed in because I would love to see another one. But on top of that, the most important thing here is it looks like there is no impending Step Brothers 2 on the way with no plans, no discussions. And honestly, every month that passes, every year that passes, I think lessens and lessens the chance that we'll ever get a sequel. So at this point, the fact that it's been so long, the fact that there's nothing even in motion at this point, and also taking consideration what John C. Reilly just had to say about the whole thing, it breaks my heart, but it doesn't look like we're going to be getting a Step Brothers 2 anytime soon. And that's unfortunate, that's sad, and we're probably never going to get one, but you know what, that's fine. I still love the original, one of my all-time favorites. I'm going to keep enjoying it for the rest of my life. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today gets sent in to us from Froygon Jin, who writes, I absolutely adore the last 3 Star Trek films. J.J. Abrams and company knocked these things out of the park. They were high-quality productions and highly entertaining movies. I don't think anything more could have been done to reinvigorate this franchise. With the most recent problems in trying to get a fourth film made and declining interest from the general movie-going audience, is it just time for Paramount to abandon the idea of Star Trek as a film franchise? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, one of the interesting things coming out of Star Trek Beyond, which was the last Star Trek movie, which quite frankly to me was the best of the J.J. Abrams movies. I've liked all the J.J. Abrams era Star Trek films, including Into Darkness. It might be my least favorite of the three, but I liked it. I still thought it was good. It had some very bad, cheesy moments. Khan! It had some bad, cheesy moments, yes. But overall, I thought it was good. I really liked the first one in 2009, but I thought Beyond was even the best one. But even as the best one, it made the least amount of money. Made $350, $340, $360, somewhere around that, $360, $370 million worldwide, right? We'll get to the specific numbers in a second. So one could be tempted to say, well, I mean, none of the movies made that much money. Like, I mean, it's the first one roughly made the same amount, maybe a little bit more. Into Darkness made a little bit more than that. So they're all roughly in there. So you could be tempted to say, with the third one making the least amount, by a little bit, could you say, hey, there's declining interest. There's, nobody cares about Star Trek anymore. Could you say that, with the Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth drama now, with them leaving and all this kind of stuff, and you got some new television stuff coming, is it just time to say Star Trek should give up on the big screen? They should just give up on the big screen. Well, there's something we should keep in mind here about all that. And that is, while you might be tempted to say that there is declining interest in Star Trek and nobody cares about Star Trek anymore, let's take a couple things in mind here. Now, here we are on the website Box Office Mojo, looking at all the different Star Trek movies, right? If we look at the most recent one, Star Trek Beyond made $343 million worldwide. Okay, fine. That is the least amount that we've had out of these new movies, because whereas that one made 340 something, Star Trek Into Darkness made $467 million, and the 2009 Star Trek made $385 million. So yes, Star Trek Beyond made the least amount of money out of all the Star Trek films. That must have been established. But let's look at it in terms of the bigger picture. How is the popularity of Star Trek holding up now compared to, say, the last round of Star Trek movies we had, right? Like First Contact, like Insurrection, like things like that. Well, let's look at that. The last Star Trek movie that came out was in 2002, Star Trek Nemesis. Star Trek Nemesis, that's not a typo, folks. Star Trek Nemesis only made $67 million. $67 million worldwide. That's how much Star Trek Nemesis made. Now, let's go to the one prior to that, Star Trek Insurrection. Star Trek Insurrection only made $112 million. Like, Star Trek Beyond literally made more than triple what Star Trek Insurrection did. Let's go back to one before that, First Contact, a film that some Star Trek fans think it's their favorite Star Trek movie. Star Trek Insurrection only made $146 million. Right? Star Trek Beyond made quite a lot more than double what Star Trek First Contact made. So what I would kind of say, and what my argument would be right now, is simply this. In the grand scheme of things, Star Trek right now is more popular, and the Star Trek movies right now are more popular than they've been in 30 years. Even with Star Trek Beyond only making $340-something million, it's still far more popular than the previous generations of films that they did. Far more popular. Far more people are coming out to see them. Far more people want to go out to the movies to see them. Now, it costs more to make these movies than the other ones, sure. But you still can't argue the statistical fact that more people are coming out to the theater to see these movies now than they did in the previous generation. You can legitimately make the argument that the Star Trek movies today are more popular than the Star Trek movies have ever been, even when you adjust for inflation. So I think so. I think that means there are two sides to this coin we got to look at. Yes, the Star Trek franchise is not making 600, 700, 800 million dollars like a lot of studios like to see their big tentpole movies do. True. On the other hand, it's doing better than any Star Trek movies before. And I think there is still a market for it. I really do. I really still believe there is a market for this. And here's the other thing. I believe partially the dip in, I think there are two main things that attributed to the dip in the box office results for Star Trek Beyond. Number one is that despite the fact that I liked it, a lot of other people didn't like Star Trek Into Darkness. I think a lot of people like Star Trek 2009, which is why you saw an upswing in the box office for Star Trek Into Darkness. But I also think there was a bunch of people that didn't like Star Trek Into Darkness, which attributed a little bit to the dip going into Star Trek Beyond. On top of that, do you guys remember the first trailer they put up for Star Trek Beyond? When they played Sabotage and all that kind of stuff, it was a brutal, awful trailer. Everybody hated that trailer. Me included. And I think that put them behind the eight ball. I think they were fighting an uphill battle ever since that, trying to get people, because that first trailer made that movie look stupid. And I think it was an uphill battle after that. It was a real uphill battle. So I think combining those two things contributes a little bit to the decline in box office. But I also think most people who saw Star Trek Beyond quite enjoyed it, which I think will reflect positively in whatever the next movie is. Now, you still got to get through this whole Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth situation. You got to get these guys back on board, all that kind of stuff. But in general, nah, I don't think the big screen days of Star Trek are over. I think they're more popular today than they've ever been. We've got it looks like we've got some strong television support coming, both in the forms of Star Trek Discovery, which I quite enjoy, and we got this new Jean-Luc Picard TV show coming, on top of some other projects they've got coming. So, yeah, I think everything is positioned really for Star Trek to have a healthy existence on the big screen. Again, I don't think Star Trek is nearly popular enough to be $600 million movies or $700 million movies. No, but they can be 400 plus or 500 plus million dollar films, which is just fine. And if they can get back to that, I think everything's fine and everybody's happy. So that's just kind of my take on that. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comments section below and leave me your thoughts. All right, let's move on to emailed in topic number 3. And the third topic emailed in here today comes to us from Taiwan. Writes, we've all noticed Marvel releases their shows unintentionally, quote unquote, the same day as DC movies. Over or under 50% that Daredevil Season 3 drops on December 21st. And does that prove they do this on purpose? All right, for those of you who don't know the significance of the December 21st date that Taiwan is pointing out, December 21st is the current official release date of Aquaman. Now, we have seen before that coincidentally, Netflix has dropped, like I believe, didn't Punisher open on the same day on Netflix as Justice League did? Or at least in the same week or something like that. And it's happened before as well. Right now, there is no official release date announced for Daredevil Season 3. Which brings up the very intriguing possibilities. Hold on. We've heard that Daredevil Season 3 could be released late 2018, maybe early 2019. That puts December 21st within the realm of possibility. Taiwan is asking, over or under 50% that Daredevil actually drops on December 21st or within a couple of days of that. Continuing this coincidental trend of these Netflix shows dropping the same time that DC movies are being released. I'm going to say this. I'm going to take under 50%. Under 50%. I believe there's a legit chance, once again, because it lines up with when they said Daredevil Season 3 could release. They're saying it could release later this year. That puts a December 21st window completely within the realm of reality. We have seen the coincidences of when they've released their shows before. They may want to take advantage of the Christmas break where people are home watching more TV. They may want to do that. So for all those reasons, I think there is a chance it happens. But I will still take the under 50%. I will take the under 50%, meaning I think it's unlikely that it'll happen for one main reason. Not only is Aquaman opening in that 1 week window, there's a Disney film opening in that 1 week window as well in the form of Mary Poppins. So Mary Poppins is opening that same week as Aquaman is. So if, coincidentally, they're dropping these Netflix shows to try to be a little jab to the DC movies, which I still don't know that that's true. Come on. That's a little bit of a stretch. I will admit there have been a lot of coincidences, but come on. I think even if that were the case, would they want to potentially interfere with keeping people home to watch Daredevil instead of going out to watch Mary Poppins? I don't know. You could make an argument that those are completely different demographics that they're going after. That would be a legitimate argument, absolutely. But I am going to, while I agree there's enough there to raise your eyebrow about, I'm going to say take the under 50%. I think it is unlikely that they open Daredevil Season 3 on Netflix the same day or week as Aquaman. But I don't think it's impossible. So that leads us to today's question of the day. And the question of today is really simple. Do you guys think that Daredevil Season 3 is going to open either the same day or the same week as Aquaman? Here's what you do. In the description of this video, at the bottom of the description, there's a link where you guys go to cast your vote for the question of the day. And then just simply click, yes, it is going to open on the same day or week as Aquaman, or no, it won't. And we're going to go over right now, a little over 100 of you have already jumped in there and clicked your responses. And here's what you guys are saying so far. So far, by a narrow margin, 56.7% of you are saying yes, Daredevil will drop either on December 21st or in that same week against Aquaman. 43.3% of you are saying no, they won't. Now, this is just early numbers. We still got 24 hours for you guys to go in and vote on this. So once again, go into the description of this video. You'll see the question of the day link. Click on that and cast your vote. Let your voice be heard. Will Daredevil Season 3 be opened against Aquaman? That's opening in theaters, on Netflix. Is that what they're doing? Go and have your say. And we'll visit the results of this poll on tomorrow's John Campea show. All right, let's move on to topic number 4. And topic number 4 comes to us from Xavier Busquille, who writes, here's my question. Everyone assumes that the undusting, undoing Thanos' snap, will happen during Avengers 4, and wonder how are they going to market Avengers 4 and Spider-Man. But what if the undusting is done by Captain Marvel at the end of her movie? What better way to introduce her and solve the marketing problem at the same time? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Xavier. And this, believe it or not, is a growing theory. Basically, it's this. Yesterday on The Weekly Hero, a show that will sometime soon have a change of title. We just haven't figured one out yet. But yesterday on The Weekly Hero, Robert Meyer Burnett and I, we talked about this, about what we call the Avengers 4 problem. And the Avengers 4 problem is, how do you market this movie? How do you hide certain things without, like Spider-Man Far From Home is going to have its trailers out before Avengers 4 hits theaters. Clearly you're going to show Spider-Man. So that's the Avengers 4 problem right now. How do you market this thing? With the ending of Avengers Infinity War, with all the dusting and all that kind of stuff, how do you market this film? And that's a challenge. That's the problem they have. Within that problem, there has been some whispers and a growing theory that the undusting, or the reversing of what Thanos did, doesn't happen in Avengers 4, but actually happens before that in Captain Marvel. And if they undo it in Captain Marvel, that solves the Avengers 4 problem, right? Essentially, if they did that, that would solve the Avengers 4 problem. No longer do you have to worry about, well, how do we market Avengers 4? Oh, the undusting's already happened in Captain Marvel. We're free to do it, okay? Now, it raises, however, other questions. Like, how do you fit that story into the Captain Marvel story? There was a theory I read online last week about somebody who basically proposed this, that actually the main storyline of Captain Marvel will revolve around a message that Nick Fury sends through time and space to Captain Marvel back in the 80s and 90s. That was his back into the 90s. That, because remember, in the post-credit scene of Avengers 3, we have Nick Fury using that beeper to send a message to Captain Marvel. And he wrote, I can't remember all the details, he wrote it very detailed, but basically it was, that triggers off the series of events that becomes the main story of what is happening in Captain Marvel, because of, obviously, Lee Pace is back as Ronan the Accuser. So he's going to probably be the main antagonist there. But that the story will actually revolve around her trying to do something to save the future, to save something that happens in the future. Now, there are a lot of problems with that theory. There are a lot of holes in that theory. And you certainly can't just undo the great dusting in, say, a post-credit scene, right? So Captain Marvel undoing the dusting couldn't happen in a post-credit scene. It's too important. It would have to be a part of the main narrative of your movie. And right now, we really haven't heard any suggestions that that's the case. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. It just presents a little bit of a problem for that theory. So again, the things working for that theory, number one, they've been keeping the whole Captain Marvel plot completely under wraps. And we are well under a year from when this movie comes out. And we know next to nothing about this film. They have been incredibly secretive over Captain Marvel. If the undusting happens in Captain Marvel, that would explain the even more than normal heightened sense of secrecy around that movie. Also, if they do the undusting in Captain Marvel, it solves the Avengers 4 problem about how do we market these films. If it's already done, it becomes not a problem. It also gives Captain Marvel an instant tie-in with the wider MCU. Because as of right now, Captain Marvel is very much an isolated standalone film, something I'm kind of looking forward to be honest with you. But there are some people who propose that if the undusting becomes a part of the Captain Marvel plot, it instantly, in her first movie, creates a very dynamic tie to the rest of the entire MCU and the events in the MCU. That's a legitimate argument. But again, there are big problems with the argument as well. We've heard nothing about something like this. You can't rush the undusting, all these types of things. So I maybe should have made this the question of the day. I'm a little torn on this. I'm a little bit torn. On the one hand, I think there's some real merit to this theory, but at the other hand, I just think there's more evidence against it. But there's definitely enough there that you have to at least go, it's possible. So look, if I had to put $5 on it, I would put $5 on no. Captain Marvel, the undusting plotline does not happen in Captain Marvel. It saves for Avengers 4. If I had to put $5 on it, that's what I'm saying. But even I have to go, you know what? I think there's enough anecdotal stuff there to at least go, that's intriguing and it's possible. It's possible. Unlikely, but I think possible. I'm curious to know what you guys think. How much of a chance do you think there is that this undusting actually happens in Captain Marvel? 3%, 25%, 30%, 80%? Like, what do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. Again, I think it's unlikely. I don't think that'll happen. But I do think there's enough there to at least go, that's intriguing. It's possible. We're just going to have to wait and see. All right, let's move on to the final email of the day. And the final email today comes to us from Andrew Christie, who writes, "Hey, John. I loved your passionate reaction to Superman joining the CW crossover, as he will probably just end up jobbing for everyone. He has been my guy since I was 3, and it's a shame the character isn't living up to his legacy like he used to. Does today's world just not care about Superman as a cultural icon anymore? I liked Man of Steel and love Henry Cavill as Superman, but it clearly didn't click with the general public. What could be done to restore him to his former glory?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, no, I still think Superman, the idea of Superman, I think is still as relevant today as it has ever been. Like, there's a reason why a lot of people don't get Batman tattoos. I mean, some people do, but for the most part, when you see athletes and stars and whatever getting like tattooed, it's usually a Superman logo, right? You see a lot of people getting the Superman emblem tattooed on them. The iconic status of Superman is still Superman. I mean, that's just still there. I loved Man of Steel. But I also love the evolution of the character of Superman in Justice League. See, I thought Man of Steel was a perfect representation of what Superman would be like at that stage in his life, struggling to figure out his place in the world, his responsibility with his power, who he really is, struggling with his identity, all that kind of stuff, while getting the Earth invaded by superpowered aliens, and he hasn't even figured out how to fly properly yet, right? And I believe the incarnation of Superman we got in Man of Steel was perfect. Absolutely perfect. At the same time, when we get to Justice League, we see Superman evolving step by step a little bit more into the traditional Superman that we've always known. And to me, that makes sense because now he's been Superman for years. He's been through a lot. He understands his own power and his place in the world now more than he ever did before. And you're seeing that evolution of the character. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like Justice League. I did. And one of the things that I actually quite liked about Justice League was that progressive, incremental evolution of Superman into the Superman we've all kind of always understood Superman to be. And it was a perfect logical transition from the Superman we had in Man of Steel. So I really like that. And I think even there's a bunch of people who didn't like Justice League who had to appreciate, upper lip notwithstanding, who had to at least appreciate what Superman was becoming in that version, right? Whereas Batman went completely the opposite way. They de-evolved Batman, which anyway, what they do with Batman I don't want to get into. But, so I like that a lot. Here's the problem, and this is what I have talked about all the time. You get this Superman, who is played perfectly fine by Hulk, whatever his name is. I forget his name. Played perfectly. I have no complaints about the performance. None. I have no complaints. But Superman, the granddaddy of all time of all superheroes, has been relegated in the CW world as the butt end of a joke. They've turned Superman into a footnote, into an afterthought, and worst of all, they've turned him into a jobber. For those of you not familiar with wrestling slang, a jobber is somebody whose sole existence in professional wrestling, their job is not to win. Their job is to go in and wrestle other guys and make the other guys look good. You know, let Mr. Wonderful give me his pile driver. Let Jake the Snake Roberts give me his DDT. Let Undertaker give me the tombstone. You know, let Shawn Michaels give me the sweet chin music. Whatever it is, a jobber in professional wrestling is a guy who's not meant to win. He's meant just to go in there and make other guys look good. They're never the star. They're there to make other guys look good. The CW has turned the greatest superhero of all time, this guy, into a pathetic jobber. That's what they've done. They've disrespected and spit on the greatest superhero of all time and simply used him as a device to make other characters look good. Hey, we got the Supergirl show. Not a lot of people taking our show seriously. What should we do? Let's have her beat Superman in a fight. Well, what if people just say that was just a joke? Then have Superman say, no, Supergirl, you are Earth's hero, not me. You're Earth's hero. Fuck you, CW. Anyway, I get very upset with the treatment. I mean, if you send Batman onto Arrow, which they're not doing, but if they did, you don't make Batman job to Arrow. I love Arrow. Arrow's great. But you don't make Batman job to Arrow. You don't do that. And you don't make Superman job to your TV's Supergirl and make Superman into a jobber. They have done more damage to the mystique of Superman than even Nuclear Man did. What the CW has done, they have done more to damage the mystique of Superman than Nuclear Man did, than Richard Pryor did, than anything else, ever. So, when the whole notion comes up of, hey, in this year's crossover, Arrowverse crossover event, Superman's going to be there. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, that should have been, before they brought him into Supergirl and had him job for Supergirl, And let's just say he was still a character in Supergirl, but him and Supergirl never fought. They weren't having Superman job for Supergirl. He was just there, a background character. You announced that Superman is going to be a part of the Arrowverse crossover. Boom! That everybody's interested in that. But now, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Oh, you're bringing along a little footstool jobber? Well, good for you, I guess. I mean, might as well bring along Jimmy Olsen. You know what I'm saying? Nobody cares. What should be a massive thing, a massive event for the big CW crossover, Superman and Lois Lane, by the way, are going to be appearing in this Arrowverse crossover, and instead nobody cares. And that's a shame. That sucks. And it's what it is. Now, can you change things up? Yeah, you can, but I don't think DC is going to do that. I don't think CW is going to do that. They're going to keep Superman in his place. And they're going to keep him there exclusively to be somebody who makes Supergirl look good. That's all they're going to use him for. And I think it's just as egregious as if they brought Batman into Arrow and made Batman job to Arrow. It's just as egregious as that. It's horrible. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. There we go. He's going to be in the Arrow crossover, and I don't give a flying fuck. I really don't. So, which is too bad, because a couple years ago, I would have been super excited about it. Not so much anymore. All right. That's my feelings on all that. What do you guys think about it? Jump down in the comments section and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that out of the way, we got some time left over here. We're going to go over and take some live questions from you guys. And we are going to get things going. If I can get this to work, having some problems. There we go. All right, here we go. First live question today comes to us from Jay Bling, who writes, your talk last night about the Infinity War rapture had me wondering whether animals were taken by it. Kevin Feige confirmed it last month. Again, never really take a lot of that seriously. Anyway, therefore, going on, if John Wick's dog was dusted, Thanos better put his helmet back on because unlike Thor, Baba Yaga is almost always going for the head. There was actually a great comic strip that somebody made. I've never found out who made it. But somebody put together this little comic, and it's I think it's Iron Man and Doctor Strange, and Thanos shows up and says, "Where's the time stone?" And Doctor Strange says something like, "We put it to somewhere you'll never get it." And they go, "We put it inside that dog," and they point to a cute little puppy, right? And Thanos says, that won't stop me from getting the stone. And you see these dog guts ripping all over the place. And Thanos is like, now I have the stone. And then the next frame in the comic strip is a picture of John Wick going, hey guys, I'm looking for my dog. Have any of you seen him? And then it cuts to Thanos' face going, and then that's kind of the end of the thing, right? It was hilarious. I loved it. Look it up. Just look it up on Google Images. You should be able to find it. It's great. Here's the one problem I have with this notion that all animal life, or like half of animal life, also disappeared. My problem with that notion is that if part of Thanos's philosophy was limit the amount of sentient life to better match the resources the universe has to offer, well, one of our, humanity's most precious resources is livestock, right? We need that to feed ourselves and to feed the planet. And for Marvel, if Marvel would say half of all animals disappear too, well, then that doesn't fix the problem. That causes a whole new food problem, right? So I don't know about that, but it is the whole John Wick thing. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Let's see. Ben Hayusa writes, remember when you told me movies like Smokey and the Bandit are timeless? Coming to America is another good one as well that can be considered timeless. I don't know. I mean, I love Coming to America. I do. Is it timeless? Like, if somebody were to watch Coming to America today, would they have the same experience with it that we had with Coming to America, however many, 15 years ago, however long ago it came out? I don't know. See, Smokey and the Bandit, I believe, does transcend that. I'm not saying Smokey and the Bandit's better than Coming to America. I'm just saying it had that one kind of element to it. There are certain movies that are just completely timeless. Like, it doesn't matter when you watch it, it'll have the same impact. Does Coming to America have that characteristic? I don't know. I would have to, maybe I'll sit down and watch it again and see what I think about that. So I'm not going to say it doesn't, but maybe. I mean, it is a great movie. It is a so glow. I mean, it's a great movie. So yeah, I'll have to watch again and see if I agree with you on that, Ben. Dakota Barber writes, saw Equalizer 2, really solid, brutal action. The man Denzel was great. The hotel scene teased in trailers had me grinning how it played out. Oh, I liked Equalizer 2. I did. I don't think I liked it quite as much as I liked Equalizer 1. I think I liked Equalizer 1 a little bit more. But yeah, I thought Equalizer 2 was damn solid. I thought it was damn solid. And I thought it should have done better at the box office than it did. Actually, give me a second here. Equalizer 2. How did it do at the box office here? Equalizer 2 worldwide has made, just waiting for it to open here, $125 million on a $62 million budget. It's gonna break even. The movie's gonna break even probably. They didn't put a whole ton of into the marketing, so it'll come close to breaking even. Should have done better. How did the first... I don't think the first Equalizer did all that great either. The first Equalizer worldwide made 192, so yeah, it made more. Equalizer 2 is not going to do as well as Equalizer 1 did. But, I agree with you. I think Equalizer 2 was damn solid. I enjoyed it. Let's see here. Curtis Lopez writes... Are you looking forward to A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively? Directed by Paul Feig, I believe it's a first for him. I'm intrigued. I need to see more, because all I've seen is the one trailer for it. Of course, Blake Lively is married to Ryan Reynolds. I don't know enough about the movie. The first trailer is intriguing, and it's definitely got me intrigued. I actually like Blake Lively as an actress quite a bit. I think she's quite good. I don't think she's always been in the best stuff, but I think she's quite good. And to see her pop up in this... You know where I really love Blake Lively? Was, I think it was called Savages, that she was in with Taylor Kitsch and the dude who played Kick-Ass. Why am I forgetting his name right now? Anyway, I thought it wasn't a great movie, but I thought she gave an exceptional performance in it. The first trailer for this, like I said, has been very, very intriguing. It is a very different feel kind of movie for like a Paul Feig directed film, but I don't know enough about it yet. I'm going to wait for a second trailer to say whether or not I'm really into it or not. But for now, count me as being intrigued. I am. DC Patience writes, did the trailer from Happytime Murders go too far? I was turned off, but based on critic reviews, it seems worth seeing. Well, it depends on the critics you're listening to, because there's a lot of critics, DC Patience, who do not like the film. I think the marketing for it was perfect. I already liked the marketing, but after seeing the movie, I really thought the marketing was perfect because the trailers give you a true idea about what this movie is. Like, if they didn't make the trailer the way they did, you might have been negatively shocked going in and watching the movie and seeing how raunchy it is. Whereas they put out a trailer, I appreciate this, that was a very honest trailer. This is the tone of this movie. It's like this. So when you go in to watch the movie, you're not going to be shocked by what it is you see, because the trailer paints a picture for you about what you can expect to see in the movie. So I already liked the trailer because I thought it was very funny, but then I appreciated the trailer even more after seeing the movie because I'm like, hey, at least they weren't trying to trick audiences into thinking they were getting a cute little fuzzy puppet movie and then going really raunchy. They painted a very clear picture right off the bat. This is the movie you're going to get, and that's the movie they delivered. So I actually thought they did a good job with the trailer, to be honest. Jay Bling follows up. For your information, Thanos looks very seductive in the video thumbnail today. I'd let him take me. Let's bring up the picture here. Where'd Thanos go? There he is. There's the thumbnail that Ray put together. I'm loving these stylized thumbnails that Ray's been putting together. Yeah, look at him. He's got those "I'm gonna devour you" eyes going on. Well, look at that. Maybe there's a movie for you. Maybe Captain Marvel is really just a whole quirky romantic comedy. He's trying to erase half the life in the universe. She's just discovering she's part alien. Can they ever get together? I mean, that's what that is. That's a romantic comedy poster right there. There you go. Ba, 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 ba. It's a romantic Captain Marvel's a romantic comedy with Captain Marvel and Thanos. There you go. I just spoiled the whole damn thing for you. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Technovine, who writes, Giovanni Campea, do you Rihanna as an actress? Do I Rihanna? I'm going to guess you're trying to say, do I like Rihanna as an actress? Not particularly, no. She didn't have much to do. Look, she didn't do a bad job in Ocean's 8, but her role was this big, and she really didn't have much to do. Look, I like Rihanna's music. I think she's great, but I won't particularly say I like Rihanna as an actress. But again, to be fair, the role she had was a super simple role. It was a small role in that movie, and she didn't blow it. So there's that. But I just don't think she's really been given an opportunity yet to show whether or not she can. I'm going to doubt it. But as of right now, I'll say no, I'm not particularly a fan of Rihanna as an actress, per se. Okay, Curtis Lopez writes, looks like Natalie Portman is directing and starring in a biopic about twin advice columnists Abigail Van Buren and Ann Landers. By the way, those weren't even their real names. How dare she take the role and not actual twins? Yeah, exactly. So for those of you who haven't heard, so there were these two competing advice columns back in the day. There was Dear Abby and Ann Landers. Not everybody realized the two were twin sisters. And they hated each other. And now apparently that hatred has been passed on to their kids as well. The kids don't like each other either. So that's been going on. Anyway, so Natalie Portman is going to be playing both of them in an upcoming film. Now, what's funny is one of the daughters of the actual, I think it was Ann's daughter, she's getting on social media and saying that they don't have the right to make this movie. So that could become interesting. And whether or not she's correct about that or not, we'll have to wait and see. She said they need the permission of the estate to make this movie in California. And I'm the estate and I haven't given my permission. So I don't know. That might turn into something down the road. I don't know. But yes, in today's climate right now, I am waiting for somebody representing twin an acting association made up of twins who are actors coming out and saying and protesting that Natalie Portman, who is not twins, is getting the role of twins when there are other real twins out there who could be playing the role. I am waiting for that to happen. Very good observation, Curtis. MuseTac Reviews writes, The Curse / Cult of Chucky have high Rotten Tomato critic scores. Okay, but back up, MuseTac Reviews. Back up. If I remember correctly, The Curse of Chucky has a decent Rotten Tomato score meter. Yes. But do you know how many reviews there are on it? If I remember correctly, there are 15 reviews. Whereas most movies have like 300, whatever many hundred reviews. There are 15 reviews. Nobody even wanted to review it. Nobody even wanted to review the thing. And if I remember correctly, I think a lot of the reviews were just, hey, at least they're trying to go back to horror instead of comedy. And they were kind of just praising it on that level, not like, this is amazing. So actually, the whole Rotten Tomatoes meter thing just works against you because it just kind of proves nobody was interested. Nobody was interested in Curse of Chucky. Only 15 critics. It might have been 16. It might have been 17. I can't remember. But it's under 20. Like only 15 people even bothered to review it. So that kind of goes to my point that this is a dead franchise. That doesn't mean it can't be resurrected. No pun intended with Chucky. But I'm not saying that, because, we've got a few things going on right now where there's a new movie in development. I think there's a new television project in development as well. That's not to say that it can't be resurrected. But currently, it's a dead property. Nobody cares about Chucky. It's just nobody cares. And the fact that the last film that they did make, only 15 people even bothered reviewing it, I mean, that says a lot, doesn't it? Now again, maybe these new ones will come out and re-spark an interest in it and start a new Chucky Assance and everybody will get into Child's Play again, and that could very well happen. It's possible, absolutely. But let's not pretend. This all goes back to a question that somebody sent in. before talking about how, considering how strong the Child's Play franchise is, and my whole argument was, it's not strong. It's incredibly weak. It's on life support, if not completely dead. Nobody cares. And at least not yet, maybe these new things can reignite interest, and hopefully they do. But as of right now, I mean, again, you're pointing out a movie that nobody even bothered reviewing. I mean, so it just kind of goes with that. Curtis Lopez writes, okay, people, stop trying to make Chucky happen. It's not going to happen. Kind of reminiscent of a not Mean Girls. Yeah, no, Mean Girls. That's a very reminiscent of, no, was it Mean Girls? Yes, of a Mean Girls quote. Stop trying to make that a thing. It's not going to be a thing. Very interesting. Patrick Conway writes, over under 60% Barry Jobs Superman like Kara in Reverse Flash. Oh, I'll take the over. Yeah, I think we're going to see Barry beat Superman in a race, and then we're going to see Arrow beat Superman in an arm wrestle, and then we're going to see Iris beat Superman in a wrestling match, and then we're going to see Cisco beat Superman in a game of checkers, and then we're going to see, I don't know, some 4-year-old character and beat him in a game of hopscotch. Everybody's going to job. Superman's going to job to everybody. He's going to be there to make everybody else look good. So I'm going to take the over 60% on that. Mustack follows up with, it's already happening. What the fuck are you talking about? It's not really happening. They're trying to get it to happen again. They're going to develop new movie, new TV shows, but until they come out and are successful, you can't say it's happening yet. Can't say it's happening yet. Here's hoping it happens. Fingers crossed. But it's not happening yet. Backyard Pictures writes, Giovanni here. You continue to inspire. I have my own movie talk review show, Backyard Flicks. Good luck Friday night. I will be rooting for you. Thank you so much for what he's talking about Friday night. Tomorrow night is today? What day is today? Is today Thursday? I think today's Thursday. I'm not sure. I got to actually look. Yes, today's Thursday. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. What he means by good luck tomorrow Friday night is tomorrow night is the annual Academy of Web Television Awards. They're being held in Los Angeles. And I am nominated for 2 awards. I'm nominated for Best Host, and I'm nominated for Best Live Series. The John Campea, this show, is nominated for Best Live Series. And we've won 2 Academy of Web Television Awards before, both with AMC Movie Talk. One year we won it for Best News Series, although they no longer have a Best News Series category. And then the following year, we won Best Live Series. So I'm actually nominated this year for the same category that we won a few years ago with Movie Talk, with AMC Movie Talk. So, but these are the first nominations I've gotten since being on my own. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. So me and Ann, fact checker Jonathan, and his wife, we're all going to go down to the ceremony tomorrow. We'll probably take a whole bunch of pictures and everything and share those with you guys. But thank you so much for the well wishes, Backyard. I really appreciate it. And good luck on YouTube channel, man. I want to encourage everybody to get involved in starting your own blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever, because we need more voices in the film fan community online. So good stuff on that. All right, Grandmaster writes, have you ever been to the Siegfried and Roy show? I have never been. Nope, never been. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really even sure specifically where and what that is. We're talking about the Las Vegas show. I never was. You know what? Honestly, here's the funny thing. With how much I go to Vegas, and I go to Vegas about 6 times a year. Ann and I love going to Vegas. And we love eating in Vegas. I play a lot of poker in Vegas. I love just walking around Vegas. Ann likes hanging out at the pools in Vegas. It's great, particularly the food. The food in Vegas is, man, it's the best in the world. Forget New York, forget Paris. The best food in the world, I think, is in Vegas. But anyway, I have only ever gone to like 1 show in Vegas. I really don't go to many shows. And I should. I keep telling myself every year, this year I'm going to go to more shows in Vegas. I'm going to go to more shows in Vegas this year. And I never do. But maybe this year I will start changing that, and hopefully I'll start going to more. Sebastian writes, Mary Poppins was my first movie. Return, please be good. Yeah, I think a lot of people have a lot of very fond memories of, obviously, of the original Mary Poppins. I got a good feeling about this new one. With Emily Blunt in the lead, I really liked the first trailer. It captured that magic of the Mary Poppins name. I'm looking forward to it a lot, and here's fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's good. I have a feeling it will be. I really do. I have a very strong feeling it will be. And the fact that Disney is releasing it in that Christmas season, I think speaks to their confidence in it. So let's wait and see. Ben Burnside writes, this year marked the 25th anniversary of The Sandlot. You're killing me, Smalls! Of The Sandlot, and the 45th anniversary of Enter the Dragon. Do you have any fond memories of them? I don't really have any fond memories of either. I just remember watching both a lot. Like, especially as a kid, when I was really getting into the Shokasagi Ninja movies, I would also that's what got me in. It was actually the Shokasagi Ninja movies, like Revenge of the Ninja and all films like that, that got me then into the Bruce Lee films when I was a kid. And I started watching a lot of those. So I don't have any specific fond memories. I just remember I watched it a lot. And The Sandlot, too. I mean, The Sandlot was just so great. And I just remember it was the first time I saw an ending like that. Because you know the ending of The Sandlot, where it fast forwards now 20 years, and the Jet is a major league player, the kid's now a professional baseball play-by-play commentator, and you know, it's just, actually, I'm getting kind of chills thinking about it. It was magical. It was really magical. But again, I watched it so many times that I don't have any one specific memory of it, but they're two great all-time movies. Hard to believe The Sandlot's turning 25. That's crazy. Let's see. Sebastian writes, please explain Rotten Tomatoes. I trust Yelp more at this point. Well, okay, look, basic thing is this. Rotten Tomatoes does not give anything a score. All Rotten Tomatoes tells you is what percentage of critics liked it. So let's say a movie gets 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That does not mean it's a perfect movie. All it means is that every critic liked it. If a movie has 60% Rotten Tomatoes score, all that means is all the film critics out there, 60% of them like it, 40% of them don't like it. It doesn't tell you how much they liked it or how much they hated it. It just says, hey, this movie's got a 60%, which means 60% of the critics liked it. That's all it means. Rotten Tomatoes itself doesn't give scores to movies. They don't give a score. They just tell you, we've added up all the critics out there, and out of all the critics out there, 81% of the critics liked it. 19% of the critics didn't like it. That's all it means. So that's what Rotten Tomatoes means. See, Ross Geller writes, we're on a break! One of probably Ross's biggest quotes and most memed things in all the history of Friends. We're on a break! I actually like that stuff. James Welsh writes, did you see the new changes they're bringing in when it comes to nudity writers, including producers are not allowed to use body doubles without the actor's consent, amongst others? I haven't seen all of them. I've heard about that one specific one. I honestly don't know what the other ones are. But to me, the notion of, if I'm going to be in a movie and you're going to make it look like I'm getting naked, I got to give my approval for that. Now, because regardless of whether that's actually my ass on screen, you're making it look like it's my ass on screen, and I should have a say in whether or not I'm going to do that. Now, here's the thing. Actors should be able to take a look at a script and see if there's a nudity scene or not in it, right? And then they can either say, yeah, I want to do this role, and I'll do it. I know there's nudity in it, but I'm going to do it. If like a director or something at the last minute decides, hey, let's put in a nudity scene here, and oh, what? John doesn't want to do a nudity scene? Okay, get a body double for him showing his... No, I should be able to have a say in that. Because regardless of whether it's actually me, you're making it look like it's me doing it. And that can affect my reputation or affect the perception of me as a performer in Hollywood. And I should have some say in that. So number one, it's something the actor should know about in advance before they even sign up for the movie and then decide if they want to sign up for the movie or not. If it's something that's decided after they've already signed up for, damn right, I think the actor should have a say on whether or not they're being portrayed as getting naked in a movie. I don't have any problem with nude scenes. I think nude scenes are great. There's nothing wrong with there being a nude scene. I mean, that's real life. We all get naked sometimes, right? But, I mean, if an actor has an issue with that, they're concerned about their image, they're concerned about the perception of them, then they absolutely should have a say in that. I believe that completely. I really do. Let's see here. Ben Burnside writes, why are Kung Fu movies not a thing anymore? UFC? No, honestly, I think Kung Fu movies started to die out before UFC became popular. I don't know. I think maybe they just had their life cycle. I don't know. Look, I still love a good Kung Fu movie, but you're right. They don't nearly have the same place that they used to at one point in time. But that's not to say that there's not going to be a resurgence in Kung Fu movies at some point along the lines, right? At some point along the lines, we may get a new Kung Fu movie. and it may revitalize. And look, everything in Hollywood goes in waves and in seasons. Trends come up, trends go down, then they come back again, right? So I wouldn't doubt it at all if at some point we got a new influx of kung fu movies, maybe 5 years from now. If anything, you would almost think the rise of the UFC would add to the popularity of kung fu movies. I just think they had their lifespan, and probably at some point in the future, we'll see them make a resurgence. Jack Reacher writes, sometimes I get tired of speculation. 99% of it is BS, but people plant their flag in crazy ideas and are then mad when it doesn't happen. Example, Ray's parents. Yeah, well, first of all, speculation's great. Speculation's fun. Speculation is great. Speculation is part of the thing that makes being a film fan fun. The issue, though, Jack, that I think what you're really getting at, and what I would agree with completely, is the fact that understand that our speculation is just for fun. Don't get attached to your speculation. Don't get attached to your speculation. That's why, like, for instance, on one of yesterday's shows, somebody asked me, like a lot of people asked me, John, what do you hope to see in Star Wars Episode 9? And I'm like, I don't care. I just want to see whatever the filmmakers give me. Now, you can bring up specific things and we can sit there and speculate and talk about it, and that'd be a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, I ain't going to get attached to it. And I'm not going to plant my flag, like you're saying, Jack, and say, this is what I need to see happen in this movie. And then if they don't do what I say they need to do in that movie, then poo on that movie. Did I just say poo on that movie? Yeah, poo on that movie. And that's what a lot of film fans do. They speculate, which we should, but then they plant their flag in that speculation. They get attached to that speculation. And then unless the filmmakers do exactly what they think they should do, then I'm not going to like this movie. And the Rey situation is interesting because I was screaming at people ever since The Force Awakens came out, folks, Rey's parents aren't going to be anybody significant. And everybody Campea, you're wrong. She's going to be a Skywalker. Folks, she's not going to be anybody. The Force Awakens makes it damn clear that her dad ain't Luke. The Force Awakens makes it very clear. I even put up a video about it. If you go back and look at my YouTube channel, I made this whole video shortly after The Force Awakens came out, basically saying The Force Awakens clearly lays out that Rey is not related to Luke. But nobody wanted to believe it. But everybody, and it's not just Star Wars, it's everything else too. People plant their flags, get attached to it, and when that doesn't happen, they get mad. And that's why I just don't plant I speculate more than anybody. But I never plant my flag. And I never go, now this stomp has to happen. Has to happen or I'm not going to be happy. Right? Like, I wanted to see Luke kick a lot of ass. I wanted to see Luke wipe out 300 stormtroopers and 36 Knights of Ren and not even break a sweat doing it. That's what I wanted to see. But I don't plant my flag in that. So when I watch The Last Jedi and Luke does something completely different, I'm still able to enjoy it and appreciate it. So you're right, Jack. That is something a lot of film fans do, and we need to kind of train ourselves to get out of that mode. Let's enjoy the fun of speculating about movies without ever getting so serious in it that we plant our flag and saying it's either this or nothing. Like, we got to guard ourselves as film fans against doing that, I think. Arturo Beltran writes, hated that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they mentioned Thanos for nothing to happen, and the brother said the Avengers will found out that Coulson is still alive and nada. Yeah, I don't know that the Russo brothers ever specifically said, maybe you know of something that I'm not familiar with, Arturo. I don't recall the Russo brothers ever saying that the Avengers do find out that Coulson's still alive. I don't ever remember seeing anything like that. If you guys know of a specific place where the Russos specifically say that the Avengers will find out that Coulson's still alive, please send me a link to that. I'd love to see it. I'm just not aware of it off the top of my head. But, you know, when in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as this last season was wrapping up, they mentioned Thanos. And Thanos is coming. But that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. has always done. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has always been in this one-sided relationship with the MCU. They constantly talk about the MCU never talks about them. But and it's one of the things that frustrates me about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., It's like, look, guys, remember, we're connected. Look, the people, please don't forget we're connected to the MCU. Listen, we'll talk about Thanos, right? And it was pointless. It was pointless. But they threw it in there, whatever. I don't really have a problem with it per se, but it's kind of standard operating procedure for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point, right? When Thor: The Dark World is coming out, they started off that season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. being in London, cleaning up the mess after the events of Thor: The Dark World, without ever actually being connected to it. They just kind of throw that in. It is pretty much standard operating procedure. So I feel you, Arturo. I mean, I feel your pain on that. But it's nothing new. They've been doing this the whole time. Raymond Verrata writes, thoughts, though John Cho and Kevin Kwan went with Warner Brothers to bring Crazy Rich Asians to theaters, when will it be okay for them to accept a Netflix kind of deal? For Crazy Rich Asians? I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Raymond. Though John Cho and Kevin Kwan... John Cho is the director of Crazy Rich Asians. Kevin Kwan is the guy who wrote the book, Crazy Rich Asians, and the other two books that came after that, including China Rich Girlfriend. Went with Warner Brothers to bring Crazy Rich Asians to theaters. When will it be okay for them to accept a Netflix kind of deal? I mean, it's okay to do that now. I mean, if you wanted to. Unless you're talking about... Look, Kevin Kwan could have gone to Netflix. Yes. There's more money in real movies. There's more money to be made in real movies. And by real movies, I mean movies that will be played in theaters on the big screen. They make 10 times the amount of money as something going on to Netflix. At least potentially. The potential is 10 times as much. So, I mean, you could do something like that, but you're pretty much accepting being second best at that point. They definitely made the right choice. But again, I might be misunderstanding your question, Raymond. Dutch 3K5 writes, how important is it for the Captain Marvel movie to work in order for Avengers 4 to be as successful as Infinity War, especially if she's a major part? Honestly, I don't think much. See, here's the thing. Marvel is in a position right now that they have had so much success. Success on top of success on top of success on top of success that one blown movie ain't going to derail them. Even if it's astronomically bad. Like, let's say Captain Marvel is just a crap sandwich on whole wheat bread. I mean, just awful. I actually don't mind whole wheat bread. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, let's say it's like the worst thing, right? It's honestly not going to affect Avengers Infinity War that much because the MCU has established so much positive repertoire with the audience, so much positive connection with the audience. It's just been success after success after success after success after success. It's going to take a chain of bad MCU films, which could happen, but it's going to take a chain of 3 maybe bad MCU films in a row before we really start to see it take a negative effect. So I honestly don't know that the importance is all that high. I really don't. Like something like Star Trek is different. There are 3 films in. One was a little bit questionable. They can't afford for Star Trek 4 to be horrible. They can't. Star Wars honestly can't afford for Star Wars Episode 9 to be as divisive as Star Wars Episode 8 was. They can't. They're fine right now, but they can't afford a chain of them. Or another one. Marvel and the MCU is in a position right now that one horrible film ain't going to derail them. Hell, even 2 horrible films in a row ain't going to derail them. I think you're talking about being in a position where you'd have to have like 3 bad films in a row for it to start to really affect you. And that's the reaping the rewards of doing so many quality movies, right? So honestly, I don't think it's all that important. I mean, we all want Captain Marvel to be great, but it's actually not that important to Avengers 4 that it is or not. So we'll have to just, but let's see. Who knows? Ben Burnside writes, why do you think Obi-Wan / Maul 2 was terrible? I have no idea what we're talking about, Ben. What is Obi-Wan Maul 2? Sorry, Ben, I don't know what it is we're talking about. I apologize, dude. Edgar Navarro writes, as much as I like the Arrowverse, Legends of Tomorrow is my favorite, and them not being on the crossover upsets me since they had a big role last time with Firestorm. They did have a big role last time. But I don't know. I mean, somebody brought up the other day, Edgar, that Legends of Tomorrow has been getting more and more ridiculous, and I think that's been on purpose. I think they're really defining themselves as a little more silly, a little bit more slapsticky, all that kind of stuff. They seem to be going in that direction, if for no other reason, maybe to really set themselves apart from the other Arrowverse shows. Whereas the other Arrowverse shows are a little bit more similar in tone. It could be that trying to force Legends of Tomorrow into the Arrowverse crossover could feel jarring and could feel awkward. It could. Or they just feel it's just too many characters. Because Legends of Tomorrow, you're bringing over 7 or 8 characters, right? Maybe they just don't have room for that in their story. And they're trying to keep it more compact. That makes sense too. But hey, if you're a fan of Legends of Tomorrow, I can understand being upset. I really can. I really do. Curtis Siebold writes, finally saw A Quiet Place thanks to you. I loved it, but the last shot made me mad because I wanted more. I hate endings like that. I still loved it. You know, at first, I'm kind of like the same way. I'm like, the movie ended, I'm like, what? But when I think about it, yeah, they didn't need to go any further. I think I know where this is going, so that's fine. But they did what a lot of movies try to do, leave you wanting more. That's the big slogan in show business, right? Leave them wanting more. End it with them wanting more. Wanting more. And A Quiet Place, that movie ended and leaving us as the audience wanting more. It's like, whoa, wait, you're ending there? Like that sort of thing. So it was a little bit frustrating, but also brilliant. And a little bit frustrating, but also brilliant at the same time. Okay, Ed Hannon writes, Supergirl and Flash are from different Earths, yes. That's what Marvel should do with X-Men Fantastic Four. Give them their own world and have them cross over. Well, I mean, there's one, you can get away with some more sillier concepts on television in the CW than you can in what you're trying to make more serious and higher quality in movies. So there's some things you can do on TV that you can easily get away with that you can't do in movies because they'll come across as schlocky. I, though, Ed, have always advocated that I wanted, when Disney gets their hands on X-Men, and they don't yet, but when they do, I really hope they just keep X-Men and Fantastic Four, or maybe not Fantastic Four, but at least keep the X-Men in a separate universe. Don't have them in the MCU. Keep them separate so they have their own world to play in. That's what I hope they do. I don't think that's what they're going to do. It's very unlikely they're going to do that. I'm just saying I really hope they do that. And don't have them cross over. I mean, yeah, you leave the door open that you could sometime if you wanted to, but you can't do the shticky kind of thing that you do in CW because we have different expectations with CW than we do for the movies, right? So I kind of hope they keep them in their own world. I really do. Jonathan Blaza writes, please clarify for me. Realized talking with a friend that Marvel's Sony deal and Tom Holland contracts are two different things. So what ends after Far From Home? Sony deal or Tom's contract? Realized just that Tom's contract isn't over doesn't mean Sony deal is over. Okay, so thanks a lot for the question, Jonathan. There is a little bit of ambiguity in here because, you know, Sony and Marvel have not made all the details, nor should they. Sony and Marvel have not made all the details of their contract public information, which is fine. That's totally their prerogative. Here's my understanding. Number one, what we do know is that the final film in the Marvel and Sony deal, allowing Spider-Man to be in the MCU, is over after Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home is the final deal. Feige and Sony have all confirmed that. That the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming is the last film they have in their deal. Now, I believe there is a very large chance that they are going to re-up that deal. I think that's what's best for everybody. I think that's what's best for Marvel. I think that's what's best for Sony. I think the fans generally want that. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to re-extend that deal. I do. Or create a new deal, whatever. I believe they're going to have a deal after that. But as of right now, the deal ends after Far From Home. Tom Holland has a contract to continue to play Spider-Man past that. Okay? But that does not mean they have to use Tom Holland past that. Here's an example, all right? Let's say I sign a contract with Paramount to play Maverick in a rebooted Top Gun movie series, right? Okay. I feel the need for speed. Okay. Playing with the boys. I'm going to play some beach volleyball. Anyway, let's say I sign with Paramount to play Maverick in a new rebooted Top Gun universe. All right. They make me sign a 5-picture deal because they're like, hey, we don't want to have the first film be a hit and then have to renegotiate with you. So we want you to sign minimum for a 5-film deal. And I go, okay, I'll sign a 5-film deal. Okay, now I have a contract to do 5 Top Gun movies as Maverick. That means that if Paramount goes ahead and makes 5 movies and they say they want me in it, I got to be in it. But what it does not mean is that Paramount has to make 5 movies. Nor does it mean that Paramount even has to use me. They could put me in the first one, realize I suck, and then replace me with somebody else. Just because I've got a 5-film deal does not require Paramount to make 5 films, nor does it require Paramount to only use me in the role. It just means I've got to appear in 5 films if Paramount calls on me to appear. Okay? Follow me so far? All right. The actor who played, and why am I forgetting his name at this point? Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard, I believe, had a 3-picture deal to play Rhodey in the MCU, to play War Machine. But guess what? Marvel decided after he appeared in one to recast him and use somebody else, and they went to Don Cheadle. They can do that. And you can say, but Terrence Howard had a 3-picture deal. That only means that Terrence Howard has to appear. So let's now go back to the Tom Holland situation. Yes, Tom Holland's contract to play Spider-Man extends beyond the Sony Marvel deal, but just because it extends beyond that, that doesn't mean they have to make another movie to use Tom Holland. All it means is that if the deal does get extended, Tom Holland has to appear in a couple more movies. That's all that means. So Tom Holland could have a 50-film deal to play Spider-Man. That does not mean Sony or Marvel have to make 50 Spider-Man movies. Doesn't mean they have to either make those movies or use him in them. So do you see what I'm saying? So yes, Holland's contract is longer than the Sony and MCU contract, but all that means is if the Sony and MCU contract keeps going, they make more Spider-Man movies, then Holland has to keep appearing until his contract runs out, and that's all that means. Hopefully I just clarified it a bit and didn't muddy the waters even more. So hopefully I did, Jonathan. Good question. I hope that answers the question. Okay, let's see here. All right, I'm going to just motor through these last few ones, guys, because we're almost at an hour and a half today, but I don't want to leave any questions unanswered. Please don't send in any more questions, and I'm going to just fly through these things here. Squarebuzz HQ writes, Death Note 2. Oh, yeah. First 10 minutes were laughable. Where's the data for how many people watched Netflix film opening weekend? Are they hiding it? Well, Netflix never gives out that information. They never do. What I can tell you is that Death Note 1 sucked. I hated it. It was a terrible movie. I don't know anybody that liked it. I'm sure all films subjective. I'm sure there are people who liked it. I don't know anybody that liked it. And yeah, they are developing a Death Note 2 apparently. I have no idea why, because that first one was terrible and I got no interest in it. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, hi John, I'm a huge fan of bad movies. Apart from Cool as Ice, oh I love Cool as Ice, which I know you're a fan of. Are there any other gems you can't help but love? Oh, any other ones? I mean, that's the one I always go to. I always go to Cool as Ice. Oh yeah. Mom and Dad Save the World with John Lovitz and Terry Garr. Mom and Dad Save the World. It's so bad, but so awesome. I often refer to back in the day, me and a bunch of friends had a house together. Actually, my buddy Rodney owned the house, but a bunch of us lived there with him. And we would watch Mom and Dad Save the World all the time. You're welcome. That's John Lovitz. Anyway, that's one. Put Mom and Dad Save the World on your must-watch list. It clearly falls into the category of so bad, it's awesome. So bad, it's awesome. So that and Cool as Ice would be a great doubleheader. All right, Edgar Navarro writes, I think Marvel does their shows on DC movies. I think Marvel does drop their shows on DC movie dates since Runaways Season 2 airs on December 21st. Really? Hold a second. I did not know that. Hold a second. Runaways Season 2 premiere date. Where is it here? Okay, I'm just looking up this thing. Sorry. Oh my God, you're right. Runaways Season 2 opens on December 21st. I had no idea. By the way, I love Runaways. Runaways is great. I wasn't that big of a fan of Cloak and Dagger, unfortunately, but Runaways is great. I had no idea. Thank you for pointing that out, Edgar. I had no idea. But yeah, it's looking there like Marvel's Runaway. Right down here, we see here December 21st. December 21st. Oh, and they're going to release all 13 episodes. Wow, they didn't do that last year. Last year, they released them 1 week at a time. They didn't release all the episodes all at once. So that's interesting. Dude, that's a new dynamic in that I didn't even consider. Thanks for that, Edgar. Let's see. Sandip Singh writes, hey, John, who funds these ridiculous F-grade knockoff movies like Atlantic Rim, Paranormal Entity, and why do they bother releasing such garbage? Most of them come from this place called The Asylum. It's this little production company called The Asylum. And they're also behind Sharknado, Transmorphers, Snakes on a Train, I Am Omega, like all these ripoff movies. It's all from this little studio called The Asylum. Here's something funny. And there's some Asylum stuff that I think is so ridiculous. That is great. When I moved AMC Movie News' head office, our main office and studio, from the AMC Burbank 16 Theater into what became our main studio and then what we then later transitioned into the Collider studio, we moved into this studio, and right across the alley, like there's an alley separating our building and another, just this little small alley. Right across the alley, I didn't even know this, but was Asylum's offices. And we were moving in and setting up the new studio. And these guys came walking over with stacks of DVDs and just said, hey guys, we just found out that you moved in here, because we were still AMC Movie News at the time. And they just all said, we're from Asylum across the road. We all love AMC Movie News. We love movie talk. We love you guys. And when we found out you guys were moving next door, we were all stoked, and they brought us all these DVDs, including like Sharknado DVDs and everything. It was really nice of them. And why do they bother putting these up? Because they make money. They make them for about $1.25 and make $5. They're profitable. They make them for really, really cheap, and people are completely intrigued by them, and enough people watch them to actually make them money. But their key is making it for such low budgets that even though they don't make much money, it actually still turns them a profit. And then, of course, they've made buttloads of cash on the whole Sharknado thing as well. But yeah, most of these movies come from a place called The Asylum. So there's that. Jaron Morris writes, John, you said you loved The Last of Us. Question, what was an emotional moment in the game for you? For me, it was when Sarah Joel's daughter died. It hit me really hard because I have lost a daughter, and seeing that got to me. What about you? Well, obviously, Jeremy, to you have a personal connection to that, right? And I mean, first of all, you lost a daughter. I mean, fuck, man, that's awful. I don't even know what to say to that. I can't remotely relate. That's awful, dude. Deepest condolences for that. But obviously, for you have a connection to something like that, clearly, and that's kind of how the game starts, right? It starts with that. And it caught me by surprise. To me, it was near the end of it when he's facing that scenario that he really should kill her, but he really doesn't want to. And he's so conflicted. And that they did a good job in that game of making me feel that conflict. Of making me feel that her death could save the world, right? But he loves her. And that, to me, as an emotional hook, that for me really sucked me in. As an emotional hook, that was a great emotional hook. I mean, the story was already great up to that point, but I felt very much like an observer. Even though the story was great and I was loving it, I was an observer of the story. When they got pardon me, to that point of the story where they set it up, they developed his affection for her, and then ultimately he was faced with that choice. I felt it, you know? And I think that's a testimony to the real brilliance of how they set up that game, is that they set it up so well and so perfectly that it completely got me invested. And it was a great way to end the game. It was a great way to end that game, and I just adored it on that level. Thanks a lot for sharing that, Jaron. Jaron then follows up. Also, in South Park Fractured But Whole, choosing your difficulty settings was truly hilarious. The lighter you are, the easier, but the darker you are, the harder hit. Oh my God. Okay, I don't even want to go into the details, but Jaron Morris brings up, I don't want to spoil the experience for you. Everything about Fractured But Whole, also referred to as Fractured Butthole, but everything about Fractured But Whole, the South Park game, is so funny. Like, so funny. Even right from how you design your character, how you pick your character class, even deciding the difficulty level of the game. Jaron raises a great point. Just everything about this game is so thoroughly funny, so thoroughly entertaining, so thoroughly enjoyable. It's awesome. And even if you don't want to play the game, I highly recommend jump on YouTube and just look for the South Park Fractured But Whole cutscene movie. And you'll probably find like a 6-hour or a 7-hour version of it. And just watching it is unbelievably hilarious. Including the constantly going back and revisiting your character's origin story with your dad fucked your mom. I mean, it's unbelievable the way they did it. Unbelievable. It's so good and so entertaining. Thank you for bringing it back up again, Jaron. I appreciate that, man. Toonie2 writes, John, why King Kong versus Godzilla? The badass in Kong Skull Island was Sam Jackson, kicks Kong's ass. And in Godzilla, the army guys are the badasses. Hate that they make the monster so weak. Sam Jackson versus U.S. Army. Well, I don't know, Toonie2. I mean, first of all, a Jackson versus the U.S. Army, that's a movie in and of itself. This new movie is The Might of the American Military Force versus Samuel L. Jackson. That's a movie right there. That's something the guys at the Asylum could make, and it'll make $1 million just like that. So there's a movie that I'm instantly intrigued in, ToonieTube, completely. I never felt, I think maybe you're just saying this in jest. I mean, I never felt like either Kong or Godzilla ever felt depowered at all. And I don't think that's what you're suggesting. But also keep this in mind, too. Kong is going to be a lot bigger in Kong versus Godzilla than he was in King Kong. Because they're saying in King Kong, he wasn't full grown yet. He still wasn't full grown. So we are going to see a bigger King Kong in Kong versus Godzilla than we did there. So that's very interesting. But as far as a U.S. Armed Forces versus Samuel L. Jackson movie, sign me up. I'm there. I'm absolutely there. Tristan Larson writes, happy you're watching Better Call Saul. The show is amazing. I'm now like 4 or 5 episodes in. I'm getting into it. So it's coming along. I'm enjoying it. I'm not loving it so far, but I am enjoying it. And everybody's telling me it just keeps getting better and better and better. And even just 4 or 5 episodes in, I'm finding that each episode is incrementally better than the previous one. So I'm getting into it. I really am. All right. Let's see. KV Channel writes, what does KV Channel write? KV Channel writes, what's the deal with Mystique being Stryker at the end of Days of Future Past? Did that go anywhere? Dude, continuity, schmontinuity. It didn't go anywhere. But when we go, look, Fox has never been all that concerned with maintaining strict continuity in their X-Men movies. And that's fine. That's fine. There are so many, wait a minute, what happened to, I thought Sabretooth was Tyler Mane and he was like this, and this. Now you're saying Sabretooth is Liev Schreiber and he's like Wolverine's brother and like what? Like continuity, schmontinuity. I find it best, my friend, to just not worry about it. to just not worry about it. What was it at the end of X-Men 3 with Xavier's dead and then all of a sudden there's this dude Comatose's body and you hear Patrick Stewart's voice going, hello, Moira. So wait, how did he get his own body back? How did Professor X, who died and got evaporated, how did he end up later in the movies having his own body back? What happened there? Continuity, schmontinuity. That's been Fox's philosophy, and it works. So whatever. So I find KV, because you raise a great point, but I find it's just best not to worry about it at this point. All right, last two questions. BMC writes, Hans Zimmer is scoring Wonder Woman 84. Yes, I'm very happy about that. His whole thing of, I'm not going to do superhero movies anymore, that didn't last very long. I'm very happy to hear that he's doing that. He's done a great job, I think, with this universe so far. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in Wonder Woman 84. And let's see. Mark C. writes, John, Obi-Wan Maul Season 3 of Rebels. Is that what you mean by Obi-Wan versus Maul 2? It was very anticlimactic. I didn't think it sucked, but it was cool to see, but it was a very anticlimactic thing. It was dead, done. It's like, really? That was it? And here's the funny thing is, during the Season 3 previews and the trailers for Season 3, they showed Obi-Wan and Maul. It's like, oh my God. And then we spent the whole season just waiting for Obi-Wan and Maul to come face to face again. And then they finally did. And I like Rebels, but then they finally, after promising it and advertising it and doing all this kind of stuff, they finally come to the fight. And it was Jun dead. It's like, that was it? That's what we've been waiting all year for? It was just kind of underwhelming on that level. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and coming along for the ride. Listen, guys, do me a favor. The whole reason I'm able to do this full time and I'm able to have guys like Fact Checker Jonathan, who does editing, and Ray do graphics, and pay them so they can have a gig and pay their bills, is because of the support of my Patreon supporters. And of course, you guys who contribute questions to the Super Chat. That's huge, but it's also my Patreon supporters. Do me a favor. If you enjoy watching my programming, head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. When you're there, you'll get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps these shows on the air, and the few benefits we have of being a Patreon supporter, and maybe you'll want to become a Patreon supporter as well. And if you do, awesome. Thank you so much for being part of the reason we're able to keep these shows on the air. Don't forget, a little bit later this afternoon, we'll be back with Open Mic. And guys, don't forget, also on my YouTube channel right now is yesterday's episode of me and Robert Meyer Burnett on our Weekly Hero show. Again, we're probably going to be changing the name of it. We just haven't found one that we like yet, so we're struggling with that. But anyway, right now it's still called the Weekly Hero. And as a part of it, Robert Meyer Burnett brought in this two-piece set, hot toy set of Vader and Tarkin. And it's awesome. So make sure you go and check out that episode. Is up on my YouTube channel right now. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for now. My name's John Campea. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And until next time, bye-bye.